Hi everyone, hope you're well. This is not bushcraft related, but I've had a few messages from people about woodworking in general. So what I've decided to do, I've got a pair of doors to make up in mahogany, so I thought I'd bring you along for the process. Apologies if you're not interested, but it's something that, like I say, a few people have been asking about, so I'm going to bring you along for some of it. I have already started, cut the top rails and the bottom rails, form the tenons on the end. But what I will do is I will quickly show you on the table saw how I form those, and again about marking out for mortices, that sort of stuff. So I'll just get set up over there and I'll bring you back. Okay, we're over at the table saw. This is my tenon. What I have got is a block set up here on my sliding table with a fence which is perfectly square to the blade, and the block is obviously so you can set your depth, and then when you start cutting, in case there's the blade binds on any of the timber, it stops any kicking, anything like that. If you had that tight up against it, up against the fence, and there's no movement here, or there's no room for the tenon or for the piece to move, the blade could bind, and you could be in all sorts of problems. This could kick, etc. So we always set up a little block on here so that we push it up, and when we run it through the saw, we know that it's not going to, it's not going to kick. And then obviously we can turn it over up against the block, and we know we're right every time. Incidentally, when I did do this, I took the riving knife off so that I could run this straight the way over. In the UK, our laws say that we cannot or shouldn't take the riving knife off, and I have to do it with a single blade. I think in the States you guys have stacked head cutters, stacked dado cutters, whatever they're called, but in this country the arbors on these machines are so small that we cannot stack blades together, because idiots use them and hurt themselves, etc. But that sort of buggers it up for the rest of us. I think you can get a wobble blade which is set on an angle, and obviously as it spins the blade doesn't move, the blade stays stationary, but because it's set on an angle it obviously will carve more timber out of the tenon, but it's all down to money. So what I did was obviously set this up, run this through, move it slightly, run it through, move it slightly, run it through, so on and so forth. Now you can just make a series of cuts, 10, 12, 15, however many cuts you want to make, and then just chisel out the excess, but I was pretty much set up so I could run it through just like so, and just moving it over and over, and then obviously we can flip that again, so that these shoulder cuts here are exactly in line. Yeah, so that was how I formed that, and obviously flipped it over and did the same that way. So I hope this helps with the cutting of the tenons. You can mark this and obviously saw down this with a saw, but unless you're exceptionally good with a saw and you've got a nice sharp one, obviously these can tend to wobble off a bit depending on your cutting. And obviously with a hand saw you never get it as perfect as with a machine, but you can always clean it up with a chisel or a shoulder plane, which looks like this. So the blade goes right to the edges. Excuse the stuff on it, and obviously you can then clean up your shoulders this way, and obviously the tenons, so you can get right in there. For me, speed is of the essence, obviously, because these are I'm getting paid for making these, so I want to make them as quickly as possible. Right, I'll get you set back up over the other side and show you about the mortices. See you in a bit. Right, okay guys, brought you back. You've got all the, these are the bottom rails and these are the top rails. A very important step, let's just bring you up a bit, sorry guys, or a very important, I feel that's a very important step, is when you're using square timber, you always mark a face side and a face edge on every piece of timber. That then gives you a datum to go from, so when you're cutting through any machining, you know where to start, which face and which edge. What I have got is a marking gauge. This is a mortise marking gauge, so we've got the two spikes, which will then mark the mortise in the rail, in the jambs or stiles of the door, and it's got a single pin on the other side. Invaluable piece of kit. Now what I tend to do is make your mortices and tenons should always be, where possible, a third thickness. So if you've got a 60mm piece of timber, your tenon should be 20mm. That's just a guide. What I tend to do is set these up for whatever bits I've got to make mortises, that sort of thing. Because this is a 45mm piece of timber, which is what, 1 3/4 inches? Yeah, about 1 3/4 inches. I've got a 1/2 inch auger. So, starting with your face side, face edge, which is down there, you can set your marking gauge off the dead centre, setting it up for 12mm, so that's 6mm either side, and you can then run down, mark your mortises the same way I did when marking the tenons, which then come out like so. So I've marked the width of the tenon, the width and the length of the tenon, and I've also put a centre line down it so that my auger has somewhere to start. So there we go. What I have done on this one is I've actually started cutting those out. I've got the other 3 pieces to do, so I'll get that done and I'll bring you back. Incidentally, what you can do is put a piece of tape or something, or a mark on the auger so you don't go too deep. Bearing in mind that these, if you push too hard or anything, will just pull straight through the workpiece. But I do like them because you can, as you've just seen, clear out the holes. Like so. So that it does clean the hole out. The mortise out, I should say. Okay, so that's one. I'm going to get the rest of them done, and I shall bring you back. Right, guys, just brought you back. Just a little tip, really, when you're drilling with an auger, or whether you're chopping with a chisel. If you drill a hole, let's just bring you in. If you drill a hole at one end of your mortise and then drill a hole at the other end in here, which I shall do now, just so that then, where are we? Let me just drill that for you. So if you drill either end of your mortise, because obviously you're going to drill halfway through each hole as we go down, it just stops you not getting right to that very edge of those. I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm actually drilling slightly out of plumb on the way down, so that gives the mortise there a bit of ease for getting the tenon in, and also to allow for glue. So I'll just drill that out, and then we'll start fitting the tenons to the mortises. Right, I'll bring you back. Right, okay, so we've got all the mortises drilled out. What we have got, obviously, incidentally, these mortises can be formed with a router, but I wanted to show a sort of a more traditional hand-built way of doing it. Obviously, you still need an auger bit to do that. Now, we could square off. Obviously you can see these are round at each end, but we could square these off where we have, excuse me, where we have square tenons, or what I have done on this one is you can see that I've rounded the tenons off. Neither way I think is any more better than another way, but obviously if these are formed with a router, sometimes you can actually form these tenons with a router as well, which will obviously give you the curves. But what I've decided to do is, like I say, just round these off, paring down with a chisel, which needs to be very sharp. I will do a sharpening video actually. Anyway, so what we do is we then letter these, or I do, so that we've got A to A on there, and it should be quite snug, but should still go in, shoulders up nice and tight all the way around. Yeah, now if they're not, we've got onto this one here again. I've rounded that. I've rounded this tenon off. You can see that's very, very tight in there. So the chances are is that you can look along your tenon, see if it's straight and true. Okay, so you'll have a little bit of cleaning up to do, either in your mortise or down the cheeks of the tenon. I would also suggest just clearing it up with a chisel, making sure, I know it's not telling you guys how to suck eggs, but your fingers are always out of the way or behind the cutting edge. And you can just pare down with a nice sharp chisel, just down the sides of the mortices. Like so. Again, with a nice sharp chisel. I can't really bring you in for this. You need to get a better tripod. So fingers always behind the cutting edge. So if I slip, nothing's going to happen. And then a smaller chisel, just to get down. To clean the corners out. Okay, just drop that over. Just clear out anything that we've taken from it. And then we'll try this again. Now I can feel that's a lot easier than it was before, but it will still need some more work on that. So checking that we're in line, and what we can do is just double check that these are going to go down nice and square down the sides, and obviously adjust the tenon to suit. Now a little bit, I need this tenon to come over this way on here. God. Excuse the crap camera work. So I needed this to go this way, so we can adjust that on the cheek of the tenon with a little shoulder plane or rebate plane. This is really not showing anything. Again, nice sharp tools. So we're just taking off very small fine shavings. And there we are. Still want some more work, but that's the principle, guys. I don't want this film to go on too long, so we'll keep beavering away. And then what I'll do is I'll probably put this up in a few different parts. Yeah. So you can see a little bit more in the mortise there. Right, I'll carry on beavering away at that, and I'll probably bring you back in another part. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.